tomorrow is the 1 year birthday of Challenger Deep Athletes Rising Above Adversity. It's been a really cool year being able to share that with people, having more conversations, and then creating the podcast to go along with it. So Tammy and I wanted to do this group coaching call and kind of talk about that book and what we've learned from it, the experiences we've had, and some of our favorite stories. And we knew having the call at this time, we weren't going to have a lot of people join us, but we will be sending this out to all of you that registered and wanted the replay sent out. But let's just start off the conversation, Tammy. Tell me your thoughts of the book over the last year.
Oh, I've loved the journey of it, even before this past year, with us starting to write it together and collaborate on this project. And that actually I'll have to give Lindsay Hall credit for. That started even a few years before my journey with Challenger Deep. And I think the name catches a lot of people by surprise. But Lindsay's the one that did some research and found that the lowest place on Earth is a point in the ocean called Challenger Deep. So it kind of made sense that we're trying to create these resources, these books, these stories that help people when they're at their lowest to help them rise above. Because I think too often we're in the midst of those challenges, or we feel that we're at the bottom of the sea, and we don't recognize the power that we do have to rise above. And actually, often adversity is really an advantage if we can turn it and see it that way. So it's been an amazing journey, this Challenger Deep with you, Jeff. And yeah, I've been excited to see how teams, athletes, non-athletes are even using it to help them gain an advantage with adversity.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's natural human reaction that we don't want to go through adversity. It's not something that we are excited about, and especially during the moment, it can be seem like you are at the lowest point. But there's so often, and I think we can all look back at our own adversity and say, you know what, that was lowest point at that time, but here's what I learned from it. And there's a lot of things, business, sports, life, that I probably would go back and say, no, if I had the choice, I wouldn't go through that. But in reflection, the lessons I've learned and the person I've become because of that adversity is amazing. And that's the when you came to me and said you want to write this with me, and as we started putting it together, that's what I realized is there's so much we can learn from our own adversity when we rise above it, but there's also so much we can learn when we hear the stories about other people that face their adversity and we're able to rise above it. And especially when it's, we've got a lot of the athletes in this book are famous athletes that a lot of people know who they are. And it's so easy to think, oh, that's Michael Jordan. He's always had it easy. He's the best basketball player in the world, that sort of thing. But you, if you know his career, there's been a lot of adversity from the death of his father to the one we share in the book, and so many different things that if he hadn't rose above those challenges, he wouldn't be the person we know him as. And so I think that's what's really powerful about these stories is we can take those stories and when we face our own adversity, reflect on some of the other ones that help us get through that.
Exactly. And I think it's a good testament to that we actually need adversity to see how good we really are, or to see how bad we really want something. But I think our first initial human reaction when we hear adversity or we're faced with it is to run from it. And Jeff, I don't even know if I've shared this story, and it's not in this book, but do you know the difference between bison and cows during storms?
I love this story. Please share it.
Okay, so when a storm comes along, cows will see the storm in the sky and start running away from it. Well, bison see the storm or feel the storm, and they actually run toward it. And I love that idea of helping athletes and anyone in general learning to be a bison and actually run to the adversity, embrace it. Because what happens if you run to it, that storm passes over a lot quicker. Whereas if you're running away from it, it just stays and hovers over. And, we see that in our work with athletes a lot. Those that aren't willing to take it head on, it just kind of like lingers and stays with them. Those that are willing to embrace it, more times than not, that obstacle's removed.
Yeah, absolutely. What a quote that I love is good timber does not grow with ease. The stronger the wind, the stronger the trees. And I think that says a lot about adversity.
Yeah,
Let's
definitely.
let's talk about some of our favorite stories and lessons we've learned from this book. What
Well,
we had this conversation yesterday. There's some stories that we share over and over because they are our favorites, but and go ahead and touch on any of those. Erin Matson, we always got to share hers. But what are some of the most impactful that you've got from it?
I think it probably changes based on some of the challenges I'm dealing with athletes that I work with. And I know one that has seems to be um, just popping up a lot lately, and that is frustration with lack of playing time are not starting. And I love the Swin Nader story. Swin Nader was a JUCO All-American basketball player. He transfers to UCLA during their run at national championships and when Bill Walton was there. Well, Bill Walton's the best player in the nation. And so he's playing behind Bill for 2 straight years, never starts. They win 2 national championships. Bill Walton is player of the year. And he never hung his head. His goal was how much could he push Bill to be his best? And he knew in return that would push him to be his best. And it ended up working out for him. He was the first player ever drafted in the first round that never started in college. And I think sometimes we lose sight as athletes because we want it now. We want that playing time. Maybe it's the stats. We want that recognition now. And instead of realizing and embracing the role that we are in, making the most of it, and it's going to pay off later on down the line, just as it did for Swin. I mean, he won 2 national championships in the process and then was drafted first round. So I don't think it hurt him at all.
No, that's awesome. That's a great story. One that I really love is Anthony Trucks, and probably similar to what you're talking about right now. It's because it's something I've shared a lot recently. And his story was, and I love this because I actually had him record a short little clip that I share with athletes all the time. But Anthony Trucks, he wanted to be a football player, and there's a lot of different things that prevented him from doing that. And so the first time he was on a football team, he was 14 years old. And the way he said it, he says, I sucked. I was the worst player on the team. It was just terrible. And at that point, it's really easy to just say, you know what, this isn't for me. Not gonna do it. And he decided the way he says it, he says, I did the work in the dark so I could shine in the light. And between that year and the next year, he put in the work, he put in the reps, he put in the practice, he put in the weightlifting, all the things he needed to make himself better. And in the long run, he ended up playing for Oregon, went on, had an NFL career, and it's really amazing. But it's really a situation where he was facing the choice. I've either got to put in the work or I've got to accept my fate. And I think it's a really good story that, you can accomplish those things, but it's not just going to your practice. It's not just doing the things that everybody else does. You've got to put that work in the dark that is going to help you shine in the light.
I do love that because I do think sometimes we have that, again, quick fix mentality and we want it now. But it is what you're doing behind the scenes on a day in, day out basis. Uh, Um, and that was a great podcast you guys had too. So I don't know if you want to link that for people to listen to.
Yeah, when I put this in the membership area, I will put the link to the podcast plus that video of his that he talks about.
Mm. You know, the second story that I would share is Ali. And I think that's because, again, he was the greatest. But he had tons of adversity. And it started from when he was a young boy. And he had worked really, really, really hard. I think he was 6 or 7 years old to buy himself this brand new bike so he could pedal to the gym. And he goes to the gym one day, leaves his bike outside, comes back out. It's stolen. And he's so devastated and upset that this thing that he had worked so hard for, trying to get a little change here and there, and it was stolen and gone. Well, the policeman working at the gym was like, let me teach you how to box so you can learn to protect yourself and your property. And that moment is what led Ali into boxing. And who knows if, would he have ever been the greatest or even taken up boxing if his little shiny red bike had not been stolen? But he also started using it for motivation. Every time he got into the rink, he would look across and think, that's the guy that stole my red bike. And so he'd use it to motivate himself to get upset. And I love that. I hate that for young Ali, but I love that here he is taking a crisis for him in that moment and he uses it to better himself. And that's what a successful person does. We're faced with a crisis, we have two options. We can fall to it or we can rise to it. And again, throughout Ali's, career and history, we see that of, he didn't shy away from adversity or challenges.
When you talk about that, we have that choice. We can fall to that adversity or we can rise to it. The other one that comes to mind a lot is Amberly's story, Amberly Schneider. And that is kind of to the extreme. She was in an accident and paralyzed herself and faced a lot of adversity going through that recovery. And she was a barrel racer, rodeo, and rather than give up, she was determined. And in fact, there's a Netflix series movie on her called Walk Ride Rodeo, because that's what she said she's going to do. She's going to walk and she's going to ride again, she's going to rodeo again. The walking one is the one that she just has to conquer because she is still rodeoing professionally now. And it's an incredible story. That's another one. I'll put the link to that podcast below too, because we had a great podcast with her. But she's an amazing young woman that has done some amazing things with the adversity she's faced.
Yeah. And the same, I won't go into it in much detail, but we had Bethany Hamilton, um, famous surfer that lost her legs to a shark attack. And she's still surfing. So, again, those are some extreme adverse situations. And a lot of people would feel sorry for themselves or think how their life had changed for the negative. But I love the inspiration from them of how you have to take life, what you're given, and make the most of it. And those two young ladies definitely have.
Yeah. So I guess overall, I mean, the message is we've got some incredible stories that people can learn from and take those stories and help face your own adversities. But another cool part is that Tammy came to me a while ago and said, we've got so many more stories that we did not include in the book. And so if you haven't listened to them, we did start a podcast to go along with the book. And we've got what, 3 episodes out now, Tammy? And
4 from this Monday.
Four.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
got 4. And it's been cool. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we're going to be able to take some episodes and we've got another book for sure. Do you want to talk about some of the episodes we've had and any lessons you've learned from them?
Well, the one that we just put out Monday was our first college student that we've interviewed. And I thought Katie had so much poise and she had so much insight that I found myself taking notes. But here's a young lady, sophomore in college, was a very good pitcher and committed to the college that she thought was her dream school. And it became a toxic environment. A lot of things went wrong for her. She lost her confidence. She even lost her love for the game. And just her talking about how, she started building back her confidence and that mental toughness. And now she has a new lease on life. She's removed herself from that toxic environment into a better one. But I think just a lot of good lessons for college students out there, that maybe don't always pick the right school the first go around, but also those that find themselves losing that love. And often it's not that we've lost that love, we've forgotten, or we're looking at the negative instead of remembering why we love our sport.
Yeah, for sure. No, she had a great story, and it was awesome to listen to her.
I was going
Our
to ask
first
which one
episode,
would you discuss. I was going to say we have to
our
discuss
first
Tanner.
episode was fun. Yeah, that was fun. You know, Tanner McLaughlin, my nephew, grew up in Southern Alberta, moved down, lived with us in Arizona for his last year of high school, 180 pounds when he moved in with us. And he had some big goals. And it started out, he had goals. He wanted to play Division I football. And then pretty soon those goals turned into, I want to play in the league. And, listen to his story of going through the adversity of, knee surgery, and then giving up a full ride scholarship to follow his dreams. And now he plays for the Bears. And incredible story. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, not only to listen to him talk about that, but to be a part of it, to have him living here with us and watching his determination and everything he did to make his dreams come true. It was pretty cool.
Wow. And he's alumni of our Confident Athlete online program. So it's
Yes.
great seeing
Yes.
that succeed. So but I'm enjoying the podcast with you, Jeff, as I'm enjoying the journey with this book. And that's one thing I want to talk about really quick of the impact this book is having on teams. And I've had a handful of teams that are using it as a team read. And maybe every day or every other day, one teammate will share a story. And then they talk about how they can turn it into what they could use in their sport, or if they were faced with something similar. And I just love seeing the book come to life with the way I didn't even think to have them do that. But obviously, I learned from how teams and athletes take and implement things as well.
Yeah, no, and that's what's cool. I mean, hearing people that have read the book and whatnot and the impact it's had on them, but then when all of a sudden we hear of a team doing something like that, it's pretty cool to hear how they're implementing that as a group.
Yeah.
So
I had a
it's been a
soccer
lot of
team
fun.
that their favorite thing was be a swin, like push that person, in front of you. And that was kind of like their rally cry, not to get focused on their playing time and their role. So that was really neat to hear. And it was kind
That's
of their
really cool.
inside little team thing. So yeah. I'm gonna switch gears a little quick to kind of wrap this up together. Um, but without realizing it, the stories that we have shared in this book, there's 30 of them, they all fit into what I call the circle of success, how we can rise above adversity. And there's three prongs around that circle: unity. And in a lot of these stories, we share how important it is to be unified with those around you, or how we need other people, even individual runners. There's a great story in the book about that, but how other people, we need to rely on other people to support us. And when we turn our attention to others, it often helps us rise above as well. Second one is confidence. Um, a lot of pieces to the confidence, but when we're confident, and when confidence isn't based off result and or feedback from others, then we just have so much more power to rise above adversity. And then third is focus, having that right-minded focus of staying focused on what you can control, of what you can do in that moment. And then in the middle, that kind of drives the circle, is your why. knowing the bigger picture of why you play your sport. Because I think I alluded to that earlier, but if you know your why, then that short term lack of result or that short term challenge is not going to hold you back. And, Amberly has used, you know, being paralyzed as a short term result. And that's amazing. I don't know if I would have been that strong to do that. But she's taken that situation and looked at it as short term, and she stayed focused on why she was doing what she was doing. And it just can fuel you to a higher level. So, circle of success, all the stories kind of fit in there into one of those categories, if not several. But whatever challenge that you're facing in your life, make sure that you're unified or have support staff. Build your confidence from inside out and stay focused on what you can do, not losing sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah, that's great. And for any of you that listening, knowing your why is such an important thing. And Tammy and I use a process called the 7 levels deep to help people discover their true why. And if you want to go through that process, you can go to jeffhagee.com/why, and there's a blog post there with the video that we use and stuff like that. Tammy, I know depending on when people are watching this replay, because it's the birthday of the book, you've got some special offers right now. Do you want to talk about what those are and where they can find those?
Yeah, buy one, get one free. So buy Challenger Deep, get another one of these free, or you can get the first Challenger Deep free. But it's on my website in the store, and we'll provide the link under this, Jeff. Would that be all right?
Yep. Yep.
And then also Jeff has an offer too. If you only want one book, then just pay for shipping and handling, and the book's free.
Yeah, you can go to jeffhagee.com/free book and just pay for the shipping and handling. And sorry, Mario, that's just to US addresses.
Yeah. I ran into that challenge, yeah. So
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Mario, for being on here with us. Thank you for all those that are watching the replay. There are some incredible stories, incredible lessons you can learn throughout this book and also from the podcast. So thank you so much and have a great day.